Welcome in to the latest edition of Three Dog Thursday here on the Winning Cures Everything platforms and winningcureseverything.com, their YouTube page. I am the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. He is the owner, the operator, the purveyor of winningcureseverything.com. Hello, Gary Seegers. You're always missed, but my God, were you really missed last week on the show. Good to have you back aboard here as we pick underdogs in college football. Great to have you. And I know we're looking to roll the sleeves up and get after it again this week.
I got the sleeves rolled up already, as you can see if you're watching on the video. Yes,
I'm going right now live on the show. Whether you're seeing us or whether you're only hearing us, again, Three Dog Thursday is not only the video show, but also a podcast. Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. Get us in audio form. Come see what we look like, the male models on Winning Cures' platforms, but come for the underdogs. Come for the real meat and potatoes, which is the underdogs, which we were hurting last week. Thank God for TCU. But other than that, Jason Powers and I made a mess. You know what last week was? The shoulda, coulda, woulda week. Because I kept talking about I'm dubious about Memphis. Should have taken them with Florida State. Didn't happen. Powers says near the end of the show, Toledo getting 10 against Mississippi State would be really good. We should have made those official picks. We did not on the program, so we need your help.
So here's the thing. Last week, like heading into week 3, home underdogs were hitting at like a 70% clip. This week, it is at 52% across the board. So they took a beating last week. It was about time for some home dogs to not be able to cover, and it was rough. It was rough last week. So
it was rough. It was rough in specific for Oregon State to be right in the game at halftime and do nothing in the second half. For Virginia, for me in the ACC, to be tied, I think, at the half and do nothing in the second half at home and get beat by Maryland. So that was rough.
I said it. You got to be able to finish. You got to be able to finish.
And we need to be better on Three Dog Thursday, and we strive to do that here on the program. So thank you for finding us. We've got underdogs that we're going to be playing. Again, I went full-scale educational on your BetUS college football show that Gary does with Parker Fleming and with Kyle Hunter. So I feel like I've done some prep. I feel like I'm prepared here for the exam this weekend. We'll see if that does in fact pay off. So we're looking for 3 underdogs from each one of us. This is what we do. All right. Which way do you want to go? How do you want to begin things for Three Dog Thursday? Give me one and why.
Let's start off in Morgantown. So Saturday morning, Kansas goes to town. Kansas has lost their last 2 games on the road at Illinois, and of course last week at quote unquote home in Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, since they don't get to play actual home games this year. But they lost to UNLV last week, 23-20. Post-game win expectancy in both of those games was well over 70%. Last week it was close to 90%, but they were -2 in turnovers last week, and they were -3 in turnovers the week before. Turnovers, I think, are fickle back and forth. Now, Jeff Grimes has come out, and he's the offensive coordinator there at Kansas. He replaced Andy Kotelnicki, who went over to Penn State. And I think that they're going to be okay. Like, Jalen Daniels is not as good when you don't have Kotelnicki just scheming guys wide open. They don't have as much motion going on before the play. So there's some things that they can tweak, things that they certainly need to get better at. But they've still played really well. They're still able to run the ball well. I think Jalen Daniels can still throw it. But he's not able to quite read a defense as well. Kansas is getting 2.5. That's the best number that I can find out there. But I'm going to take Kansas because I know West Virginia coming off that loss in the backyard brawl last week. West Virginia also lost, opening week to Penn State. But I think this Kansas team still has some juice here. There are some 2s out there now. This thing never got to 3, so it's starting to move back the other direction. But I will jump in front of that steam. I will head it off. I will continue on with it because I think this thing could be close to a pick 'em by the time we get to Saturday. I like Kansas plus 2.5. And turnovers in the gambling world. Kenny White talked about this a long time ago. Turnovers are worth like 4 points, at least in the gambling world. So Kansas lost by 3 last week. They were -2 in turnovers. If it's 4 points times 2, that's 8. Kansas probably should have won that game 28-23, right? It was just crazy luck.
And through most of the metrics in major college football in the NFL, if you're -2 in the turnover margin, your chances of winning go down drastically beyond just -1. And if you're -3, you can basically forget it. You almost never win if you're -3 in a game. So you're hitting on something to pay attention to because they've turned the ball over the last couple of games, the Jayhawks. And if they take care of it, they're obviously going to have a better chance. So
And
underdog
I don't
number
think,
one
by
is
the
the
way,
Jayhawks.
that West Virginia is as good at taking the ball away. Like, I think that's a big thing with them. I don't trust that West Virginia defense whatsoever. And I don't think West Virginia's going to be able to throw the ball all over them because Garrett Green isn't really a passer. So I feel good about this. I think Kansas wins the game outright. So plus 2.5 works.
How do you trust West Virginia at this point? They had the game, had it with the backyard brawl with Pittsburgh, only to let them roar back and get 2 touchdowns in the final 5 or 6 minutes of the game in that rivalry game. And you wonder if that has just damaged them psychologically, and it's all but over right now for Neil Brown anyways. He continues to lose the biggest games to Penn State and to Pitt at the beginning of the year. So Gary Seeger's first underdog from Winning Cures Everything and winningcureseverything.com is Rock Chalk, baby. The Jayhawks for this matchup, a Big 12 matchup at West Virginia early on in the day. Again, it's 3 Dog Thursday. Whether you're only hearing us, come see us on the Winning Cures Everything YouTube page, winningcureseverything.com. If you're seeing us, it's also a podcast. We love all of the above. I have to be better. The only thing that came through for me was TCU, a Big 12 team. Little precursor. I have another Big 12 team later on in the show. But game number one, doggy number one, is an SEC matchup. This is Arkansas at Auburn. What to think of the Auburn Tigers? What are we getting here? Are we getting the team that blew it to Cal a couple of weeks ago in a home loss as a double-digit favorite? Are we getting the team that destroyed New Mexico, who's not very good? I'm not sure. I do know this. Sam Pittman's Hogs showed me something against Oklahoma State, even in defeat a couple of weeks ago in the double overtime game. They're getting points here. I like the young quarterback, Talon Green, very lanky, very elusive. He's getting better throwing the ball. Arkansas may win this game outright here with Auburn in this instance. And I believe my number is 4 times a year ago, they were a road underdog, Arkansas, and they were 3-1 in those games as a road doggy under Sam Pittman. I know it's a new quarterback, but give me Arkansas. A thought, you're in the Mid-South region, you're in that area. There's a lot of Arkansas people around where you are. Any thought on Arkansas, Auburn, Gary Seegers?
And so this thing has moved to 2.5. There are no 3s left. It's 2.5 or 2 across the board. I mean, I can't disagree with you. Like, I don't know that I necessarily trust Hank Brown, the new quarterback for Auburn. And it would not surprise me to see them go back to Peyton Thorne in this spot. Arkansas can certainly move the ball. Can they take care of it? Right? That was the problem with Oklahoma State, which is what we were just talking about with Kansas as well. My projected score on this, I mean, it's pretty high scoring. I've got 35.34 to 34.53. Like, it's Auburn favored by 1 in this spot.
Right.
So, yeah, I could certainly see it. There's been a lot of people that I certainly respect that are, proven winners in this that have gone with the Arkansas +3. I mean, once it gets to 2.5, 2, then you're trying to basically pick an outright winner.
Right.
So you're going to take Arkansas plus the 2.5, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I could certainly see this. I mean, it's Bobby Petrino. Like, that man could certainly win anything. Arkansas, by the way, really, really good against the spread. 13-3 against the number as a road dog in their last 16 in that spot. So they're good at covering as a dog. And yeah, I think I could certainly see this happening.
And again, I believe it was 3-1 a year ago for Sam Pittman's group. And again, you spoke of turnovers when picking the Kansas West Virginia game. They gave the game away on a platter to Oklahoma State with turnover after turnover. Dropped punt
out by like 280. 280
dropped
yards
a punt inside their 10-yard line to give a touchdown away. They're driving for a score themselves. Green drops the shotgun snap for a fumble. Just gave the ball away. Can't do that at Auburn. I don't think they will. So I'm going to take Arkansas for underdog number 1 here, getting the 2.5 in that SEC matchup. Hey, we've got a new sponsor here as part of 3 Dog Thursday and winningcureseverything.com. Let's show you our new sponsor right here on the program. It's our friends at Go Sleeves. GoSleeves.com. GoSleeves.com. All right, if you're like Gary, you're like me, you're getting up there a little bit. You still want to be a weekend warrior. You want to train. You need something therapeutic for the knees, for the calves. Gary, you feeling me? For the elbows. Go Sleeves has outstanding kinesiology technology. It helps increase the blood flow. What does that do? It gets rid of the soreness. As you see on our screen, if you're seeing the video, it helps you recover, manage the pain, get better performance for your knees, for your calves, for your elbows. If you're playing tennis, running, whatever you're doing, weightlifting, weekend warrior basketball, biking like you see on the screen, Go Sleeves for this fantastic technology. They are a brand new sponsor here as part of 3 Dog Thursday, GoSleeves.com. It is go time with Go Sleeves. We love that. And they're
We'll have a
sponsoring us
promo
here.
code soon, right?
Yeah, we will have a promo
Yeah.
code, but we're sending them the way of Go Sleeves right here through Winning Cures Everything as well. Brand new sponsor on the show. All right, 2 more underdogs from each of us. Where are you going next? Are you looking the way of the Atlantic Coast Conference?
I most certainly am, and I am going to take Georgia Tech as a 10.5-point dog at Louisville. Now, there is not a number that I can come up with that would tell you to bet Georgia Tech. The only thing that you can do here is, as a handicapper, look at the fact that Georgia Tech has already been through quite a bit of adversity. They've traveled for 2 big games. They were at home against Georgia State, who has beaten an SEC team with taking care of Vanderbilt last week. Georgia Tech has played really good competition. Louisville has played tomato cans, as you would say. And yeah, they've whipped those teams, but we've seen Brent Key in this spot so many times. He's won outright as a double-digit dog, I believe 5 times already. I mean, that is an absurd amount of success as a double-digit dog.
The opening win in Dublin against Florida State was a double-digit situation.
Yes, and they won the game outright. They've done it before. They will do it again. Not necessarily here, but it would not surprise me if they got this win outright, because we still don't really know what Louisville is. All of their numbers thus far have looked fantastic. If you look at my projected score stats-wise, I've got Louisville 42 to 23.5. Like, that's crazy. But that's based on just specifically stats for this season. And they've played Jacksonville State and an FCS school, and that's it, right? Jacksonville State has 0 defense. You get Buster Faulkner back there, the offensive coordinator for Georgia Tech. Now you got Tyler Santucci. That Georgia Tech defense is actually better at tackling this year, way better than they were last year. I think 10.5 is just too much. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. So give me Georgia Tech plus the 10.5.
I love the too many points theory. And again, Brent Key's team got a great win early on in the year. They followed it up, though, with the loss to Syracuse. So the ACC proven itself to be a little tough in conference play right now. What does Louisville have? You're right to question them on this. So you'll take the double-digit lay. I'm going to join in with you on 3 Dog Thursday here on the program. TJ Rives, Gary Seeger's with you. If you're only hearing us, come find the video show. Follow him, by the way, at Gary WCE. Follow me at 3 Dog Thursday, or at Buck Sideline Guy for my role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. I'm going to go right here. You know this about me. I have been married for almost 30 years to a USF bull. Mrs. Reeves, she's a bull. The Bulls and the Miami Hurricanes Saturday night in Tampa. Look, Miami got the huge win in Gainesville early on in the year. Eye-opening win here. I was on Florida that weekend, and they demolished the Gators on 3 Dog Thursday, the first episode of this show. But I'm going right at the Hurricanes here again. 16.5. I don't know what you're seeing live here, Gary. 16.5 or 17 just seems to be too many points. I know I got burned taking a 16-pointer with Oregon State last week, but to me, USF has firepower. The quarterback, Byron Brown, can play. They've got a couple of receivers. I can totally see this being a 1-touchdown game. I can see USF winning this game. Too many points. I know Cam Ward was tremendous against Florida, but they haven't played anybody the next 2 weeks to know what we really have here, especially when Florida appears to be bad. USF will be jacked. I just think too many points. Gary, a quick thought on this matchup here for the Bulls and the Miami Hurricanes in Tampa.
DraftKings has it 17.5, so we will give you the 17.5.
Wow.
But FanDuel's got it 16.5. Bet Rivers got 17. BetMGM, Caesars, both they're 17 as well. So you can get either side of that key number of 17 here. I see where you're going with this, but Byron Brown has not been great throwing the football this year. They're like number 102 in PPA per pass.
Right.
So far, they're not great. And he's been missing just wide open guys. Everybody wants to point to the Alabama game. Alabama was shuffling around their offensive line in that ball game. Both of their starting tackles were out for at least the first 3 quarters, right? Caden Proctor was out for that game. Elijah Pritchett was out for the first 3 quarters. He had like a minor injury. They were going to try and just win the game without him. He could have played, but they were trying to hold him out for Wisconsin. He came back in the fourth quarter, and Alabama won the fourth quarter 28-3. So when Alabama got their line back together, their offense absolutely clicked. They scored 4 touchdowns just back to back to back to back. Miami is 15-4 against the spread against in-state schools away from Coral Gables in the last 19. They typically make an emphatic point that, hey, we are the best school in this state. We are the best football program in this state. I would be terrified of it. I actually lean the other direction. I would take the 16.5 at FanDuel, going Miami's way. But I can understand where you're coming from. This is a massive game at home for South Florida in Raymond James. I mean, I could see either way. Personally, I would lean the other direction.
All right. And again, one more nugget here. You were rolling off on the stats. USF, for what it's worth, under Alex Golish's first season, there were 6 occasions when they were an underdog last year. They were able to win a couple of those games. There were 3 times that they were at least a 10-point underdog. 2 of them they covered. So now we come back around to them being a double-digit underdog, and I just think this is a close game. This is a game where they make Miami make a couple of mistakes, and they're right in the game. They were right for whatever the reasons were that Alabama was having their problems. Second year in a row, they were having problems into the fourth quarter. They outplayed USF at the end of the game and made that score a lot wider than what that game was up until about the 10-minute mark. So again, I will go USF Bulls Saturday night prime time from Tampa against the Miami Hurricanes in game number 2. We got underdogs still to come. One more from Gary, one more from me. You see on the screen, if you're with us live here as part of 3 Dog Thursday on the Winning Cures Everything platforms. And again, I bow to Gary for all of his help, all of his insight, the promotion through the Winning Cures Everything platform and his YouTube page. You need to patronize our sponsor, Ticket Smarter, and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. If you're trying to go to any of these games that we're talking, that Arkansas Auburn game is going to be a tough ticket. Georgia Tech, Louisville, USF, and Miami. The biggest games like Tennessee at Oklahoma, or out at the Coliseum, USC against Michigan, Clemson, NC State. Pick one. For the biggest games that are on the schedule in college football, Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. They've got a great algorithm for the best prices on the secondary market. Your purchase is safe, it's secure, it's guaranteed, and use our promo code WCE20. Now, if you're making a purchase of $100 or more, take $10 off with WCE10. But Gary, for most of these games, for the bigger games that you're trying to get in, if you're trying to get a pair of tickets for good seats, you're going to need to spend at least $300. If you spend $300 or more, promo code on Ticket Smarter is WCE20. WCE20 takes $20 off your order. Use that promo code as many times as you want. It's not just a one-time thing. All through the college season, use it on NFL games, Major League Baseball playoffs, concerts, events, all of it. Promo code WCE20 for an offer $300 or more for 2 tickets. Get in the game. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter. They're a proud sponsor of 3 Dog Thursday.
Yeah,
all right,
you're right about that, by the way. Tennessee, Oklahoma, cheapest get-in price is $143, and that is nose
143 up in the top, and probably double or triple that for anything in the lower level that's a good seat. Use Ticket Smarter. Use it all throughout Saturday as you're tracking your tickets wherever those games are. Again, Ticket Smarter mobile app, promo code WCE20 for an order $300 or more. Take $20 off. All right, you owe me one more underdog, young man. Are you going back to a previous Pooch winner for you? Who is it and why?
Well, of course I am. Of course I am. I'm going to Bowling Green, and they are going down to College Station, Kyle Field. They're going to take on Texas A&M. A&M, of course, coming off an absolute drubbing of Florida last week in Gainesville. I mean, they were up 33-7 at one point. In the first half, they outgained Florida, 300 yards to 70, something like that.
Yep.
I mean, it was
with a backup quarterback. With a backup quarterback
that might actually be better than their starter, at least for Colin Klein's for his offense, right? The style that he wants to run. Marcel Reed is actually pretty good. I'm looking at this. Texas A&M coming off the Florida game. They've got Arkansas next week. That's a regional rivalry game. They play that in Jerry World. 23 points for Bowling Green. I think it's a bit too much. Bowling Green already went toe-to-toe with Penn State. Now, that was a bit of a letdown spot for Penn State coming off of a road victory. But this is a well-coached, fundamentally sound football team. Scott Loeffler is the coach there. He's been around forever. He's a way better head coach than I assumed he would be, because as an offensive coordinator, he was not great. But exactly. But when it comes to being a head coach, they have improved every single year that he has been there. Made bowl games the last couple of years. He's got talent there right now. Connor Bazelak, former Missouri quarterback, he is there now as the quarterback, and this is his second year. He looks fantastic. They got weapons. Harold Fannin Jr. is a tight end / wide receiver kind of hybrid. So they got weapons on offense. The defense lost some key players, but the defense is still actually pretty good. And the way that these two teams play, with the pace being slower than usual, 23 feels like too much. I don't think Texas A&M is too worried about
you
blowing
keep
this team
selling
out.
me like you got to sell me. You had them against Penn State, and they were winning the game into the third quarter as like what, a 33-point underdog.
35-point underdog. Yeah.
35-point underdog. They were winning the game in the second half of the game. Yeah. And I love your mentality of off the great road win in Gainesville. They come back at home, and they're probably looking ahead to Arkansas. Here's the spot that we always talk about, right? One more time.
You got it. This is a sandwich spot, right? Let down, look ahead, as the Solid Verbal would call it. But yeah, this is the spot right here that Bowling Green can come in. Bowling Green, I think, plays Western Kentucky or somebody next week. But it's not something. No, Old Dominion. They're playing Old Dominion next week. Not exactly something that they would be super focused on. And A&M, might be a little sleepy Saturday night. Not too worried about this game. I expect Texas A&M to win, obviously. But this is a fundamentally sound team that takes care of the football. They don't commit a lot of penalties. I could certainly see them keeping this thing close well into the fourth quarter.
Love it. So his third underdog is the Bowling Green Falcons here for this weekend of upcoming play at Texas A&M. I owe you one more underdog, and I'm going to go back to the Big 12. So the Big 12 was good to me last week with TCU. They had to hang on. UCF with the last-second touchdown. TCU still got the cover, getting 2.5, lost by 1. Had the 56-yard field goal for the win themselves that was wide to the right. Wild game, highly entertaining. So that was a Big 12 matchup last week that I hit with on 3 Dog Thursday. I'm going back to a home dog in the Big 12 conference, one of the new teams in the Big 12. That's BYU, that has joined last season. This is their second season in the conference now with Kansas State. When last we saw Kansas State, they thumped Arizona last Friday night at home, and that was surprising. Gary, were you shocked at how one-sided that was? K-State and Avery Johnson, the quarterback, putting it on Arizona, or did you think that might happen?
I gave out Kansas State as a play. I thought that might happen. I thought that Kansas State was set up to win that game. Arizona did not look good against Northern Arizona the week before. I mean, there were certainly questions about this Arizona team. I'm very curious about what they're going to look like here.
All right.
Because BYU late at night, I mean, that is a
yeah. That's a tough place. Lavelle Edwards Stadium, that place rocks. Conference game now. They already won a game earlier this year at home. They also won at SMU. It was an ugly, bowling shoe ugly game, as the late Southern humorist Louis Grizzard would call it, a bowling shoe ugly game. All right. So they won that game, kicking all field goals, essentially, to beat SMU. Now we come back around to this matchup. Will Jared Retzloff, the quarterback, have a big night? I think he's good enough. I'm getting 6.5 correct in this matchup. This is one of the last games of the night, 8:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 where Gary is in a Central Time Zone. Give me BYU here as underdog number 3 at home. I know I've been favoring a lot of home underdogs this season, but that one just stood out to me. Avery Johnson has been good, but not great throwing the football. I think it's safe to say this is the toughest environment he will have been in Provo with the loud crowd. I like the Cougs. I like the Cougs for underdog number 3.
Yeah, we got you a 6.5. I was looking to see if we could find you a 7, but
we'll take 6.5. Put me down for 6.5 for BYU in the final game of the night. Final couple of moments, you and me. We've not talked Oklahoma, Texas. You did on your BetUS show again, BetUS college football show with Parker and Kyle. Talk a lot. I'm sorry about Oklahoma, Tennessee. I may have said Texas.
That's right.
Oklahoma, Texas is looming in a couple of weeks. First ever SEC game for Oklahoma. Tennessee comes in with a offense that's clicking. Going to be a real challenge. That's a fascinating game. I shied away, though, because it's not enough points for me to go dipping with Oklahoma as the home doggy there. Don't like them as much. Quick thought on that for our audience here.
I like Tennessee in that spot, especially if you can still get the 7. All the 7s are juiced at, I mean, DraftKings is minus 115. Caesars is minus 120. BetMGM minus 120. There are 7.5s out there. FanDuel's got that as well. But I would take Tennessee with the 7. This thing has gone back and forth between 7.5, 7, et cetera. If you are convinced about Oklahoma, atmosphere, college game day is going to be there. Brent Venables as a defense coordinator could have been saving some stuff. You know, Nico has played really well, but he hadn't played Danny Stutzman yet. So I think this Tennessee offense is awesome. And it's not just the offense. The defense. And
Josh Heupel, highly motivated because he's a former Sooner national champion quarterback, and they fired him as the offensive coordinator. And if you don't think that's part of the pregame buildup to his own team, get this one for me against these guys. You don't know. You don't know. And let's see. And the fascinating thing, if it comes to it, and they're up by a couple of scores in the fourth quarter, would he tack one on to remind everybody I wasn't good enough to still be the offensive coordinator here for the problems that went on? We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Hey, I know we got to go in a moment or two. USC and Michigan. It's weird to say this. It's a Big Ten game. It's at the Coliseum. This was always the Rose Bowl.
It's the big house. It's on the road.
My bad. This was always the Rose Bowl when we were growing up. And now we get this thing as a regular season Big Ten game. A thought on this real quick?
So I understand people are talking themselves into Michigan. I do not see it. I don't understand it. This Michigan offense, I don't think can score enough points to keep up here. At Miller Moss, this will be his first time on the road in a true road environment. He's the quarterback at USC. We'll see what that means here. Michigan's secondary has not covered well this year. I just don't see it with it. Like if you think that just because Michigan won the national title last year, that they've got pride and they're going to bounce back, etc. Take a look in Tallahassee. It can change quickly. Like I'm telling you, I think this Michigan team could be really, really bad. And they've now switched over to Alex Orji, he's attempted like 6 passes this year. This USC defense, Danton Lynn, the new defensive coordinator, he's got them tackling significantly better. They're up to number 43 in tackling grade. They finished last year at 75, and they actually got better through the bowl game. So, I mean, they were close. I think they were in the upper 80s before the bowl game last year. So I think this USC defense is better. I think that their offense is going to be able to put up points in a way that Michigan cannot. I kind of like the road favorite there.
And both teams have gone to the backup quarterback. I'm curious. I don't even know. It's more of a play, not an injury thing with Miller Moss, who was so good in the LSU game right off the bat on the season. So again, that will be fascinating, and it takes some real getting used to say USC at Michigan in the Big Ten at 3:30, 2:30 Central on CBS. We have to get used to this.
It's all weird.
It is definitely. I mean, we got Cal playing Florida State in an ACC game this week. What are we doing? What are we doing with all of this? Trying to make heads or tails. Indiana at the Rose Bowl last week, and it's a Big Ten game.
Oh, and your beloved Memphis Tigers, it looks like they're about to be a Pac-12 team.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, get used to Memphis against Washington State in a conference game, if that's the case. We sort it all out on 3 Dog Thursday. Again, by means of recap, Gary goes with Kansas in the early matchup with West Virginia. Georgia Tech getting a boatload of points against Louisville, and Bowling Green. Pay attention, kids. The professor hit with Bowling Green earlier against Penn State a couple of weeks ago. Bowling Green at A&M. I go Arkansas to win possibly outright at Auburn, only 2.5 points. Give me USF and too many points against Miami in Tampa, and Brigham Young in the late game with Kansas State getting 6.5. And with that, I think that's a show. Final thoughts, Gary Seegers, anything we left out?
Feel good about the dogs this week. I do feel good about this. Week 4, we are slowly starting to figure out some of these teams. It's been very sporadic. Some of these coaches have a different mindset when it comes to non-conference games versus conference games.
Sure.
Missouri being one of those where they just kind of run all this vanilla stuff, and it looks nothing like what they run on offense when they get into conference play. So we'll be figuring these teams out very quickly.
Well, a lot to be said for what happens when you get familiar with your opponents and they're familiar with you. And we're about to start finding out across the board. We're here to make heads or tails out of it and try to give you some underdog winners each and every week. It is 3 Dog Thursday in podcast form and on Winning Cures Everything's platforms, winningcureseverything.com, Winning Cures YouTube page. Gary Seegers, good luck with the underdogs. Thank you again, my friend.
Of course. Always a good time, my friend.
Love it. I'm merely TJ Rives. However you found us, make sure you're here on Thursdays, whether it's the live show on the YouTube page of Winning Cures Everything or in podcast form. It is 3 Dog Thursday.